morning, sir.
Very good morning, children. You all are ready?
Yes, sir.
Most welcome in this English class of standard 7. Today we are going to study a new chapter, that is lesson first in English literature, named Three Questions, written by Leo Tolstoy. Actually, now you are studying in this very standard 7, but this very story is taught even in intermediate classes in Bihar government, and in ICSE board it is taught in standard 8. So this is very important story. So listen it carefully, note down its concerned question answer, so that you can score better marks in coming examination and you can do better in coming days. You all follow?
Yes, sir.
First of all, I will narrate I will instruct you in English, and thereafter I will translate it in Hindi so that you can understand and grasp it essence even in Hindi language.
Yes.
Right. There was a king in Britain who had three major questions. First question was, what is the most important time to begin a work? His second question was, who is the right person in this world? Who is the right person in this world? And what is the most important work to do in this world? And he was very inquisitive to know the perfect answer of all these three questions. So he contemplated a lot and came to the conclusion that it would be better to invite all the learned doctors, scientists, philosophers in his kingdom, and get the questions answered one by one. So he invited all the wise men in his kingdom and asked these three questions one by one. In the answer of first questions, the team of that very wise man replied, it will be better to have a council in which wise man will decide about the correct time to begin a work. Some people replied, it will be better to have a renowned magician who can predict about better time to come, because there are so many situations in life in which one has to act urgently. So it is wise man, so it will be magician who can decide better. But the king was not satisfied with this very answer, and he asked the next question. The next question was, who is the most important person in this world? People replied differently. Some people told about a religious person, about a saintly person. Some people appreciated for doctors, and some people for philosophers. In this way, everybody replied in their own way. That was a very different answer. Again, the king was not satisfied at all. So he raised his third question, what is the most important work in this world to do? Then the wise man replied, the most important work in this world is to do pious work, religious work, scientific work, philosophical work differently. Again, the king was not satisfied at all, and the king decided to meet a hermit. That means a saintly person who can answer his question unconditionally through multifarious dimensions of life. And he decided to meet a hermit. He went to a hermit along with his bodyguard. But the bodyguard had advised the king to meet the hermit in very simple dress so that other people cannot judge, cannot recognize the king in the way through which the king had to go. The king did the same. When he reached near the cottage of the hermit, then the bodyguard stayed at the gate of that very cottage of the hermit, and it was the king who entered the cottage to meet the hermit. The king saw the hermit digging the ground. He was preparing some beds on the ground to plant in the garden. The king offered his obeisances to that very hermit. The hermit also respected. He wished the king, right?
Yes.
But the hermit remained digging the ground as usual. The king told the hermit about his inquisitiveness, that was to know the correct answer of three questions. The hermit listened all the three questions of the king but did not respond at all. He remained digging and digging the ground. After some time, the king felt it essential to take the harp and a spade from the hand of that very hermit and let him relax. So he requested the hermit to give that very spade and harp to dig the ground himself. And the king took that very spade and harp from the hand of that very hermit by request and started digging and making the ground, making the beds on the ground. After some time, the king again asked those questions to the hermit, but the hermit was not responding at all. He was just relaxing and contemplating. But due to certain pressure and reminder of being done by the king, the hermit told, if you are not interested to dig the ground, then return my spade and harp, I will do myself. Then the king felt shame and had some patience in digging the ground to get the perfect answer of those questions from the mouth of that very holy hermit. After some time, what happens? The hermit and the king saw an individual coming crying from the gate of that very cottage, save me, save me, save me. His hand was on his stomach. Through both the hands, the strange person, that was a bearded person. He was hand sick. He was holding his hand, both the hands at the stomach, and crying, "Save me, save me, save me." Ultimately, both the king and the hermit went to that very bearded person. They turned out their clothes and saw there was a wound in the stomach of that very bearded person. Both of them started looking after him. The king himself started using cotton and medicine on the injured part of that very bearded person. After some time, the bleeding coming out from the stomach of that very wounded person became stopped, and they provided sufficient needed medicines to that very injured person. Next morning, the person became cured and started requesting the king, "Please forgive me, forgive me, forgive me." Then the king asked, "Why to forgive? There is no any question to forgive you. It was my duty to look after you because you were an strange person." Then that strange man narrated the story before the king that he had come to take revenge from the king, as the king had punished his brother and seized his property a few years ago. Listening this very word from the mouth of that very strange person, the king became relaxed as he observed king had won one of his enemies in easier way, that he had turned his enemies into a friend. So the king was very satisfied with his noble sacrifice, with his unconditional deeds. In this way, the person became cured, and after some time, the same questions again aroused in the mindset of the king. He asked the question to the hermit, "Please reply to my three questions." Then the hermit replied, "You have already got the perfect answer of all the three questions. Just listen, just listen carefully. Just listen what I say. The answer of your first question is present time is the most important time in this world to begin a work or to do something. That means present time means now. Now is the most important time in this world. If both of us had not spared our time to this very injured person, then there was no question of his life. And for the answer of second question, the hermit replied, most important person in this world is the person with whom you are associated at present, or means at a present moment. And in the answer of third question, what is the most important work in this world? The hermit replied, the most important work in this world is to do good for others unconditionally. In this way, the king became satisfied with these three perfect answers of given questions. Now, Hindi speaking person will listen. आप हिंदी में सुनेंगे। एक राजा थे जिनके हृदय में यह तीन प्रश्न उठा। पहला प्रश्न था, इस संसार का सबसे महत्वपूर्ण समय क्या है जिसमें किसी काम की शुरुआत की जा सके। दूसरा प्रश्न था, इस संसार का सबसे महत्वपूर्ण व्यक्ति कौन है। तीसरा प्रश्न था, इस संसार का सबसे महत्वपूर्ण कार्य क्या है। और उन्होंने सोचा कि यदि मैं इन तीन प्रश्नों का उत्तर जान जाऊं तो मैं जीवन में कभी असफल नहीं होऊंगा, चाहे जीवन का कोई भी क्षेत्र हो। और इस जिज्ञासा के साथ उन्होंने इस प्रश्न के उत्तर को जानने का अथक प्रयास किया। उन्होंने निर्णय लिया कि अपने राज्य के सारे विद्वानों, वैज्ञानिकों, पंडितों को मैं अपने राज्यसभा में बुलाऊंगा और उनसे इन प्रश्नों का सही उत्तर जानूंगा। फलस्वरूप उन्होंने सभा बुलाई और उस सभा में उन्होंने विद्वानों से ये प्रश्न क्रमिक रूप से पूछा। तो बहुत सारे विद्वानों ने कहा कि इस संसार का सबसे महत्वपूर्ण समय क्या है, इसको जानने के लिए हमारे पास समय सारणी होनी चाहिए, टाइम टेबल होनी चाहिए और उस